So many people think that when it is said in Buddhism that let go of attachment or let go of the desires, they say, oh, the Buddha said, let go of all the things. One of the false complaints that given to the Buddhism is that the Buddha said, let go of everything and you will be happy. Buddha never said such thing, right? When we understand the attachment, how we understand is something, it is referred to an object. Okay? So we always think that when we need to let go of the attachment, if we need to let go of the attachment, we need to let go of a thing. Well, it is wrong. Why? Because let's say, okay, if the attachment was an object, if we let go of that, okay, then we will be able to completely let go of that thing and completely not think about it. But see, so many people lose things, They have to let go of things and still they're thinking about the things that they lost. So the attachment is not always an object, right? In fact, we can't completely let go of things, right? As humans, we need things. We have to use things, right? There's a funny saying that says, your human body is always touching something, right? You can't get rid of this, right? When you're standing, you're touching the ground, right? When you're standing and when you're sitting down, wherever you go, your clothes are touching you. If you want to live untouched by anything, then you have to float in the space, right? Naked. But here's the thing. Even though you do that, you can't completely let go of things. Why? Because your body is something. It is an object. So you can't let go of things. So you understand that when we say letting go of attachment, it doesn't mean letting go of things. You can be with things, you can use things, you can have whatever the thing that you want and still not be attached to. So I want to share with you what it really means to let go of the attachment. This is what Buddha meant by letting go of the attachment. The Buddha says, they are not sensual pleasures, the pretty things in the world. A person's sensual pleasure is a lustful intention. The pretty things remain just as they are in the world, but the wise remove the desire for them. So understand, Buddha said that pretty things remain the same in the world. Let the pretty things, let the nice things and the beautiful things remain in this world the same. Let it be there. Don't disturb them, right? Don't destroy them. What we need to really let go is let go of the desire. Remove the desire for them. Now, when we say that, the people understand that, okay, if I let go of the desire, will I be able to enjoy that? Well, understand, when you let go of the desire only, you can truly enjoy that, right? For an example, desire means trying to keep it for yourself, right? Trying to hold on to it and not letting it to change and you don't like to see the things change, right? You try to make it mine, you try to make it yourself and keep it for yourself. That is what desire does, right? When you do that, what we do is we destroy the beauty of things. For an example, this is a nice story that it is my personal experience, right? When I was at home, I got the chance to go to, when I was at home, I went a lot of hikes, right? I got the chance to go to this beautiful mountain in Sri Lanka. And we were on the top of the mountain. And it was so beautiful. The whole area was covered with mist. And we can see, from time to time, we can see faraway places, right? It was so beautiful, so stunning, right? And then I wanted to take a picture of this. I wanted to keep this memory in mind, right? I wanted to take this in mind. So this is desire, right? So what I did was I was searching for my camera. And while I was searching, right, it took a few minutes to search. The whole area got covered with mist. And I could not take the picture. And I lost the ability, few seconds, few minutes, to enjoy the surrounding. That is what happens to us. When we try to make things ourselves, right? When we try to hold tightly to the things, we destroy the beauty. There's a nice story that I read recently about this. The story says that a boy found a beautiful and a cute rabbit on the road, right? So the boy fell in love with this rabbit. He wanted to take this rabbit home. So what he did, he grabbed the rabbit, and he grabbed the rabbit so tightly, just because that the grip was so tight, right? He was grabbing and holding the rabbit so tightly. The rabbit was so delicate. The rabbit died on the arms of that boy. The story says that when we hold on to things too much and make things like myself, and not letting things to change, and when the inherent nature of things is the changing, we destroy the beauty of things. What we do when we let go of the desire is we let the things be the things, right? And we enjoy the things as they are. When it changes, we see the change. We observe the change and we understand the change. Why? Because we have realized that everything is subject to change. So when you let go of the desire, that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy. Truly, you can enjoy only when you let go of this, holding on tightly and not letting things, not expecting things not to change, right? So understand that when we say let go of the attachment, it is not about a thing. It is about this expectations to things to be permanent, and we let go of the desire for them so that we can enjoy this beauty of the world as it is. So keep this little idea in your mind. Namo Buddhaya. One of the common misunderstandings about Buddhism is that Buddha said life is suffering. Now one can think, why Buddha speaks about suffering? Why Buddha is so pessimistic? Isn't there anything to be happy about life? There are happy experiences that we gain in life. Why Buddha can't speak about this? Now, this confusion happens when the Pali word dukkha, which is the first noble truth, is translated to English. The most common translation for dukkha, the word dukkha, is suffering. From this, one can think, okay, the Buddha says life is suffering. But when the Buddha used this word dukkha in his first noble truth, Buddha meant something profound and deep. Yes, dukkha can be understood as suffering in a more superficial meaning, but it has a more deeper meaning when the Buddha used this word in his context. So I want to show you from this video what actually Buddha meant by when he said life is dukkha. In his book, Noble Truth, Noble Path, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi mentioned about this as follows, I quote, Buddha drew this word out from its original context and gave it a deeper significance, using it to highlight the inescapably flawed, deficient, and unsatisfactory nature of sentient beings. Now, when you consider this point of view, we can understand that not only painful experiences, but also all the experiences has this inherent nature of impermanence and also inherent nature of unsatisfactoriness. Now, by this, Buddha did not mean that life is a total misery. Buddha also speaks about happinesses and joys that we can achieve in this life. We've talked about this in a video. We've talked about the 4 types of happinesses that Buddha teaches us to achieve in life as a householder. Now, Buddha saw that there is happiness in life, there is these happy experiences in life, there are these painful experiences in life, and also there are these neutral experiences in life. But when you take a closer look at all these experiences, be it a happy experience, be it a painful experience, be it a neutral experience, all of these experiences has one thing in common, one nature in common, and that is these experiences are subject to change. They become impermanent. And as they are fleeting and as they are transient, these experiences cannot give a person a complete satisfaction, right? Because we experience these feelings and experiences, and we think this will last forever. But the true nature of every experience is that it is subjected to change. As it is subjected to change, it doesn't give you the fullest satisfaction. When you are not satisfied with that experience, there is suffering, right? Always unsatisfaction is something that is missing in your life, right? In everyone's life, in every human being's life, when you take a closer look at the person's life, there is something that is missing in life. We think, I wish I had that. I wish I had this, right? I wish I could do that and this. This unsatisfied nature is what makes the suffering. So the Buddha mentioned this in his sutras, but the Buddha said, Yada niccang tan dukkhang. What is impermanent is suffering. So the suffering doesn't occur just because of the painful feelings, because it occurs because our mind, our lives are not satisfied with these experiences. We think when we experience a happy feeling, okay, a pleasurable feeling, we think this experience will last forever. But the inherent nature of that experience is that it is changing, right? It becomes impermanent. When we experience a painful experience, what happens to us? We think this will last forever. But the nature of this is it will become impermanent, right? So there's a nice quote that I read recently about this suffering. It says, impermanence doesn't make us suffering. Wanting things to be permanent when the inherent nature of everything is impermanent is what makes us suffering, right? So wanting things to be permanent is what we call the cause of suffering. The Buddha understood the cause of suffering as tanha. Tanha can be translated into English. One of the closest translation to tanha is the thirst, right? That means there is this unsatisfied nature. When you consider the word thirst, it has this nature of unsatisfied nature, looking for something, yearning for something, right? So understand that when the Buddha used the word dukkha, he did not only refer to these physical unpleasant feelings, but he used this word to give you an idea about this unsatisfied nature of all these experiences. So it is much better to learn the word dukkha as it is and learn it and use it without translating and understand the meaning behind it. So I hope you got some idea about the word dukkha and what actually the Buddha meant by the word dukkha. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to realize the Four Noble Truths in this life. Namo Buddhaya. What do you do when you want to give your fullest help to someone and you're willing to help someone, right? You are giving your best to help someone and still they don't understand your help. They don't understand the value of your help and they don't understand the consequences of their bad habits, the bad things that they do. What should you do? Well, this is one of the most common questions that I get asked from people. I need to help this person. I care about this person. I want to help that person. I'm giving the best of mine, but still, they're not ready to take that help. They're not growing up. What should I do? Should I help them or should I stop helping them? Well, I'll tell you the Buddha story, right? Buddha had a cousin, and his name was Devadatta. Later, he became a monk, and in the beginning, he did fine. He did good. He was doing good. He did meditations, and he was doing good, right? He became a monk under the Buddha's guidance. And little by little, Buddha became famous. People started to gather around the Buddha. When Devadatta saw this, he became jealous on the Buddha. And he thought, no, I need to become the Buddha. Right? I need to take this position. He thought that Buddhahood was a position that like a position that was in a company. Right? That means like you swap the person and you can go to that position. It was not like that. Right? So what happened? He tried everything. Right? Devadatta tried everything to hurt the Buddha and harm the Buddha's life and kill the Buddha. But still, Buddha had the compassion in his heart towards Devadatta. And I came across this one part of the sutra that the Buddha says, it's amazing. The Buddha says that if there is anyone that I was thinking about day and night and giving my fullest to help, right, that was Devadatta. I was willing to give my best, and I was thinking about him day and night to help this person. But this person did not understand the consequences of his evil intentions. Right? So Buddha was willing to help, but he did not get the help. Right? And do you know when Devadatta learned the lesson? It was in his deathbed. In his deathbed, Devadatta told, I regret about the things that I did in the past towards the Buddha. From now onwards, I go for refuge to the Buddha. But sometimes it is late, right? So we need to understand that for some people to learn lessons in life, it takes some time, right? It takes a long time to learn lessons, right? Sometimes you are giving your fullest help and they don't understand. That is the nature of people, because capacities of people, mental capacities of people, how people view this world is different. Okay, so if you care about someone, right, if you love someone, you need to give your best to help that person, right? You need to be willing to give your best to that person. But sometimes they will not understand it, right? In that case, please do not lose who you are. Right? Do not lose your characters, good characters, in the name of helping that person. Right? You have to protect yourself. If you only protect yourself, you can help that person. Right? First, do not lose who you are, lose your characters, and lose your ethics to help someone. That is the first thing that you have to do. And then the second thing is that you need to understand, for some people to learn lessons in life, it takes time. Right? So that you need to wait until that. Until then, you need to practice your compassion and your empathy towards that person. The Buddha said that I have empathy towards Devadatta. So in the same way, if we can have the empathy towards that person, that is the best thing to do. And the third thing is that you need to be willing to help. Give your fullest help at any time when they are ready. Right? Because sometimes when we give our help, right, we try our best and then we give up. And after some time, the person learns the lesson and they come back to us to get the help. And now we have the ego in our mind. We said, we always keep that past memories in our head and we say, no, I'm not giving you the help. If you truly care about that person, if you truly love someone, you need to be willing to give your help at any time. Right? Whether they are in your life or out of your life, whatever the place, whatever the situation, if you truly care about that person's development, right, you need to be willing to help. So this is what we need. First, we need the patience. And then we need to give the time for people to grow and learn, right? Sometimes it works for you. And also we need to be willing to help that person, give the best to that person. And that is what we do in these kind of situations. So I believe that you got some idea about this situation. So I wish you, may all of you be healthy, happy, and may all of you be able to realize the 4 noble truths in this life. Namo Buddhaya. Okay, we are going to answer this question. This is one of the most common questions that most of the young people ask from me. Can Buddhism be explained through science? First of all, before answering this question, we need to clarify what is the objective of science and what is the objective of Buddhism. The objective of science, to simply say, to observe the outer world, explore the outer world. For an example, science, what science does is it observes this outer world, the planets, how the world works, how the nature works, how the technology works, how the current works, how the atoms, protons, neutrons, quarks, and this dark matter, everything works. The outer world, the material world. While Buddhism explores how it works within you, right? How the world that is within you works. Your mind, your consciousness, your perception, right? How these things form and how these things work. And also, Buddhism gives you the support to make your life, make your inner self better. Okay? So, to simply say, science explores the outer world, and Buddhism and spirituality, spiritual practices, explore the inner world. Okay? Now one can ask, can I explain Buddhism and can I prove Buddhism that is true through science? Not always you can do that. Because if you try to understand Buddhism through this perspective of science, through the scope of and through the frame of science, it's something like this. You're trying to explain something that goes into two opposite ways. Because science observes the outer world and Buddhism and spiritual practices observe the inner world. Can you fully explain what is within you through the science? No, because there are some parts that goes beyond the scientific experiments, scientific explanations. Okay? And there are some parts that spiritual practices and all these practices doesn't agree with science. Okay? So we need to understand that these two things serve different purposes, that we need to use these two things in different contexts and different places because we need both. One can say, I've heard people say that we don't need science, we just need spirituality, we just need Buddhism, we just need meditation. No. Without science, right, without the advancement of the science, how can we thrive, right? How can we make this world a better place? Look around us, right? Look how many things that science, how much better things that science has made. For an example, I'm talking to you, right? You're watching this video. Why? With the help of the science. Okay? So yes, we need science to thrive. We need science to make this world a better place, right? But we need to understand, science only cannot make this world a better place. Because science can make the material things better, give you the material comfort, make everything convenient, right? Make everything comes to your tip of your hand, right? And understand everything, the complexities of this universe. Science will do that. While Buddhism, spirituality will answer your spiritual problems, right? To make your life a better one, make your inner self more kind, right? More compassionate, more calmer person, right? It will help you to build up your inner qualities, inner values, right? So we need to practice and we need to understand these two things together, but we should not mess these things up. Okay? So then the question is, can Buddhism be explained through science? Up to some part, not everything. Okay, because simply it goes into two different ways. Okay, so we need to understand science as science, right? When we learn science and when we understand science, we need to understand it as it is. And when we come to Buddhism, we should not take the perspective of science to Buddhism and understand it, right? We should understand it as it is because it serves a different purpose. So when you practice these two in balance, right? And when you understand clearly what are the purpose of these two practices are, then it will be easy for you to practice and develop your outer self and also develop your inner self. Okay, so I hope you got some idea about the science and Buddhism. So I wish you all, may you be healthy, may you be happy, and may you be peaceful. Namo Buddhaya. Now Buddhaya. Welcome everyone to another video. From today's video, I would like to share some thoughts about going for refuge to these three jewels or three refuges in Buddhism. Now traditionally, all Buddhists go for refuge to these three gems or three jewels. And in other words, we call them three refuges, right? And it is a traditional way, and most of the time the traditional Buddhists, they do it as a chanting, right? Whenever they do their prayers, they say Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, I go for refuge to the Buddha. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, I go for refuge to the Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, I go for refuge to the Sangha, the monastic and the spiritual community. So one can think, okay, it is same like the other religions, you go for refuge, you believe in this Buddha and his teachings and the monastic community, it is same. But if you take a closer look at going for refuge, the process of going for refuge, there's a clear reason why we do this, right? And also we have to remember that just because we chanted Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, or just because we chanted that I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, doesn't mean that you truly go for refuge to the Buddha. Okay, so there's a way to do that. So let's discuss how we should do this. First of all, what are these three jewels? The first jewel or the first refuge in Buddhism is called Buddha. Buddha is the historical Buddha, the greatest teacher who taught the Buddhist teachings to all of us, the greatest teacher who taught the reality of life. So we consider him as the teacher, right? The guiding light of our life. So why we go for refuge to the Buddha? Sometimes some people can say, okay, now you're believing the Buddha as a god. No, it is not the same way, because Buddha wasn't a god, and nor did the Buddha claim himself to be a god, right? So the Buddha was a simple human like all of us who achieved something beyond that an average human could achieve, the liberation. So why we go for refuge to the Buddha? It is because he's the biggest role model of our life, right? So to have an inspiration from a character, we go for refuge to the Buddha. When we go through the difficult times and hard times in our life, we can always relate to the Buddha's life and say, okay, if Buddha faced such kind of adversities and difficulties, how would Buddha do this, right? So then you can follow the Buddha's life and Buddha's role model. You take the Buddha as the role model and it becomes the biggest inspiration for our life. So that is why we go for refuge to the Buddha, right? So the correct way to go for refuge to the Buddha is to consider the Buddha as the biggest role model of our life, and to learn from his character and to follow his character as well. Okay? Or even though we cannot follow his fullest character, at least we can try some of his amazing qualities in his life. Okay? So that is the first thing and the first reason why we go for refuge to the Buddha, right? And then the Dhamma, that is the second jewel or the second refuge in Buddhism. Dhamma is the Buddha's teachings. Now, why we go for refuge to the Dhamma? It is to consider it as the framework of our spiritual practice. Buddha taught his amazing teachings for 45 years. And these teachings we consider as the Dhamma, right? So these teachings gives us amazing help to live our life and to understand the true meaning behind our life, right? So to provide this framework, provide this path, we go for refuge to the Dhamma. Now, how to truly go for refuge to the Dhamma is to practice it, right? Follow the Buddha's teachings and practice it. And that is the correct way to go for refuge to the Dhamma, okay? So first we take the role model and we follow his character, and also we follow his teachings, the Buddha's teachings. And third jewel, or the third refuge, is Sangha, the monastic community, the spiritual community, who have achieved the levels of spirituality. Okay, why we go for refuge to the Sangha or this monastic community or the spiritual community is to give us the support for our spiritual practice. Because we all know we can't do this alone, all alone. We need a community. Everyone needs a community of people to grow. So when we get together and when we get in touch with this spiritual community, we can take advice from them. We can take the experiential advice from them and grow ourselves, right? So as a help, as a support for our spiritual practice, we go for refuge to the Sangha, the monastic community. So this is why we go for refuge. And this is the real reason behind going for refuge to the Triple Gems. So I hope you got some idea about the 3 refuges in Buddhism. So I wish you all, may all of you be healthy, happy, and peaceful. Namo Buddhaya. Why do bad things happen to good people? Sometimes you've asked this question from yourself. I'm a good person. I help everyone. I don't hurt anyone. I can see myself as a good person. But still, why all these bad things? Why all these painful things, sufferings happen to my life? Why life always keep testing me always? Well, these questions we've asked most of the times in our life, right? Do you know how Buddha saw this? In the night of his enlightenment, the first thing that he realized was that life is consist of suffering. Suffering is a part of everyone's life, right? So Buddha did not say suffering as a part of good people's life or a bad people's life. Buddha saw that suffering was universal, right? But when we face adversities in life, when we face these realities, like painful situations in our life, we think that the only person who is going through this suffering, the only person that is going through this difficulty is only me. That is how everyone feels. Not to lie, sometimes I feel that. But what Buddha teaches us to see it as is to see the suffering as a universal thing. I'll tell you a story. A young mother lost her baby. But she loved her baby so much that she refused to accept her baby's death. What she did? She took her baby and ran from one village to another, one city to another, finding a doctor to cure her baby. But no one could bring a dead person back to life. Finally, she met the Buddha. The Buddha said, okay, I will cure your baby. But we need one medicine to do this. Can you bring it? Go and bring a handful of mustard from a family that no one has ever died. So the mother was so much happy. She thought that she could find this easily. So she ran to the village and went to the first house that she found and asked, do you have a handful of mustard that I can get? Then when the householder was about to give the handful of mustard, she said, has anyone died in your family? Then they said, oh, my uncle died last year. Then she said, I don't want your mustard. She went to the next house and she got the same answer. Someone had died. She went to the other one. She went from one house to another and she went through the whole village. The only word that she heard was, someone died. Death. Then she understood, okay, death is not only for me. Death was something that I always heard in this journey. Maybe my child is dead. So she made her heart strong enough to accept her baby's death. She went back to the monastery to meet the Buddha and thanked the Buddha for curing not the baby, but her heart. What Buddha teaches us to see about life is that to see the suffering as universal. So next time when you go through a difficulty in your life, and the next time when you go through a hardship, painful feeling in life, understand that you are not all alone. There are so many people who is going through in life, this in the same situation, the suffering. Okay? Most of the time, we try to remove the suffering from life. We always wish that this suffering was not there in our life. Right? We go to sleep thinking that next day morning when we wake up, all these things will be a dream. All these problems will disappear. But the reality is, when there is suffering in life, there is suffering. So that the first thing that we need to do is that accept that there is suffering in life. So the whole point of realizing the first noble truth in Buddhism is to accept the suffering as it is, to see the suffering as it is. Only when you accept the suffering, we can cure it. We can find a remedy for it. First of all, you need to accept that there is pain and suffering in all of our lives, right? And then we can choose what to do with it. Most of the time, we spend a lot of time worrying about changing what we can't change, right? But it all depends on how you choose to react to these experiences in life. Most of the time, these painful feelings, sufferings that comes to our life are blessings in disguise, right? If we did not get difficult situations, if we did not get hardships to our life, right, challenges in our life, how can we develop a strong mindset, right? There's a saying that if you need to learn how to swim, what do you have to do? You have to jump to the pool. Somehow, you have to experience how drowning feels like. Only then you can realize that what should I do to learn how to swim, right? In the same way, there is no use of trying to avoid wishing and praying that suffering was not there in life, right? There's no point of wishing and praying that, please don't give me suffering. Always wish a mindset that you can face strongly to all these sufferings and painful situations in life. Whenever you get a strong mind to face any kind of challenge in your life, then you can be happy and in peace, because you're ready for anything in your life, right? So always wish a strong mindset that you can face any challenge, any difficult situation in life. So remember that not only bad things happen to good people, good things also happen to good people. And also, sometimes you may think, why all those good things happen to bad people, right? It is not always the case. Good things happen to bad people, and also bad thing happens to good people. That is the law of this world. So we all need to develop the mindset to see the suffering as a common truth to everyone, not a personal thing. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to develop a strong mindset to face any challenge in all of your life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. Now, we all know when it comes to Buddhism and Buddhist practice, there are a lot of meditations involved, right? And sometimes some people can think, oh, Buddhism is only about meditation, right? And there has been a huge debate about Buddhism, that whether to learn Buddhism or to practice Buddhism first, right? So from this video, we're going to talk about whether we should learn Buddhism or to meditate or to do both, or what to do when it comes to Buddhist practice, right? Now, the reason why I made this video is because I found a wonderful sutra that discusses about this matter, right? In this sutra, the main character that appears in the sutra is an enlightened monk called Mahachunda. So Venerable Chunda gives this idea about whether to practice or to meditate. But before that, he he explains this debate that had happened within the monks community, within these two groups of monks. So it is very clear, according to this sutra, that there has been monks in the past who only meditate, and also there were another group of monks who only learn Buddhism, like who only become intellectually learned in Buddhism, right? So there have been this huge debate between these two groups of monks, that who are the superior ones. Like the ones who are meditating has been saying that we are the superior one because we practically apply all the Buddha's teachings and we meditate and we experience it. And the other group of monks was saying, like, you don't have any kind of knowledge and intellect about Buddhism, so you don't know what the Buddha is talking about. So there has been this huge debate. And then in the sutra, Venerable Mahachunda clearly explains that neither one of them, right? Neither of these meditating monks nor these keen on Dhamma will be pleased. And they will not be practicing for the welfare and happiness of multitude, for the good of the multitude, for the welfare and the happiness of the devas and humans. So what Venerable Mahachunda explains by this is that neither of them are correct, right? And this is how we should understand about this. Then Venerable Mahachunda says that, therefore, friends, you should train yourself thus, though we ourselves are Dhamma experts, we will praise also those monks who are meditators. And why? Such outstanding persons are rare in this world who have personal experience of deathless element, which is Nibbana. And the other monks too should train themselves thus, though we ourselves are meditators, we will praise also those monks who are Dhamma experts. And why? Such outstanding persons are rare in this world who can, by their wisdom, clearly understand a difficult subject. So understand, when it comes to Buddhist practice, yes, we must meditate, but we also need to have a good understanding about Buddhism. To do that, we must learn. So one of the sources that we can find to learn Buddhism is by reading the Buddha's teachings, reading the direct Buddha's teachings, reading the sutras. So you can read them online. You can find some books that you can read as well. And one of the best ways to learn the Buddha's teachings, direct Buddha's teachings, is to learn it by reading. And then after that, after learning, we have to look how to apply these teachings into practical life, right? And that is where the meditation comes in. But sometimes there are these people who think that we should only learn, or sometimes there are people who say that we should only meditate, right? So when it comes to Buddhist practice, I have seen that there are three groups of people in this world. One, those who learn only. Two, those who meditate only. And three is that ones who learn and meditate and do both, right? So what are the disadvantages of learning only Buddhism? One of the biggest disadvantages of learning Buddhism only, like only learning Buddhism without practicing, is that they become detached from the practice, right? If they are focusing only about learning, they detach from the practice. And then sometimes they go on thinking about these impractical ways of doing it. And then the second is that the more people learn only, they will overanalyze stuff, right? When it comes to Buddhist teachings, there are some deeper and that needs a wiser understanding about these phenomena, right? And the ideas that Buddha is talking about. But when they overanalyze it, right? There should be some sort of analyze, yes, there should be wisdom, but over-analyzing will end up in unrealistic, and they will end up in like these pointless debates, right? That should not be done when it comes to Buddhist practice. And the third one, this is a big disadvantage for someone who is practicing Buddhism, if you only learn, focused on only learning without practicing, what happens to most of the people that I have seen is that the people end up in arrogance, right? When they have only this intelligence, or when they have this only knowledge, people will end up become arrogant about their knowledge, right? They think that, okay, I know more, so that other people are lower than me, right? They are no match for my knowledge and intelligence when it comes to Buddhism. So these are the disadvantages of only learning Buddhism. And also, there are some disadvantages with only meditating, right? Because when you don't have any kind of context or idea about practice, right? Any kind of knowledge about practice, then you will be misguided most of the time. So learning is important when it comes to meditation. So learning and meditation should be both practiced in balance, right? So one of the best ways to do this is to learn and also ask questions, right? Meet people, meet some communities who practice the Buddha's teachings, and meet monks, right? And then ask questions, how to practice this? How can I understand this? And learning and meditating, when it goes with the balance, you can practice the Buddha's teachings without any problem. So I hope you got some idea about practicing Buddhism, and I wish you a healthy and a happy life, and don't forget to prioritize your peace. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever lied to someone? Well, I know what you're thinking about. You will say to me, well, what are you talking about? We all have lied, right? That is the nature of all of us. Yes, it is the common human nature for all of us to lie, right? I got this question from one of the parents who was visiting our monastery. She asked from me, like, my daughter has this serious bad habit that she always lies to me, right? No matter what she does, she never tells the truth. What's the reason for this, and how can I stop this? Then I asked from her, have you ever punished your child or scolded or yelled at your child just because she did a bad thing, she did a wrong thing, and she told the truth? She told you what she did. Have you ever done that? Then she said, yes, I have done it many times, that I have scolded and I have punished my child just because she told the truth, right? And I told her, this is the biggest reason why children lie. And this is the biggest reason that people lie, most of the time. People lie because they're afraid of the punishments, right? And also, people lie because they are being punished in the past, even though they told the truth, right? So that is why I always advise for parents and people. No matter who are the people who you're living with, they will do mistakes, they will do wrong things. That is the human nature, right? But make them understand, no matter what bad thing or what wrong thing you did, tell the truth. If you tell the truth, there will be no punishment, there will be no anger in it. If you tell the truth, there will be love, affection, guidance, and understanding. That is what we need to practice, right? People lie because they're afraid of being punished and being afraid of that hurt and pain. And also, one of the biggest reasons that people lie is because they're afraid of losing things. Okay, so if we can make an environment for people around us, for our loved ones, that there is this understanding, there is this love and care and guidance, so that they will always tell the truth to you, right? So I want to introduce you to this wonderful practice that we have in monks community, right? Because as monks, right, when we become monks, we get 227 precepts to practice, right? Sometimes these precepts are broken by ourselves, right? Most of the time it is because of lack of mindfulness or lack of awareness, right? Mistakes can happen. If we broke some precept, there is this practice called apati deshana. Apati deshana means if we did a wrong thing, or if we break a precept, what we have to do is we have to go to one of our brother monks and open up it, right? That means tell the mistake that we have done and tell them that I know and I see this mistake as a mistake, and hereafter I am trying my best to be disciplined, right? And the response from the other party is the most wonderful thing, right? The response always will be that I know and I see this mistake in you as a mistake. I understand that you have done a mistake. So from hereafter, you will be forgiven and you will be guided and you will get the help from the monks community to be disciplined, right? And that is what we all need to have in all of our families and people who we are dealing with, right? We need to have that understanding and guidance and love and care. And then people will always be truthful, right? Because people don't understand what are the bad effects and adverse effects of this lying. Most of the time people say, okay, I can say white lies, right? I can say white lies. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any bad thing, or it doesn't hurt me. Well, white lies do hurt you, right? Although you said it just because it is a small thing and doesn't hurt anyone, that is the start of a mistake. When you get comfortable with white lies, right, little by little you will get comfortable with big lies. So that is why that is why the Buddha said, when the Buddha defines that you should stay away from lying, when the Buddha said you should stay away from lying, Buddha never referred to any kind of colors of lie, or white lie, or red lie, or any kind of lie. Buddha said, be truthful, stay away from lying, right? So how can we understand this lying? The lying should be understood that the words that we speak with the intention of fooling someone, right? Putting him in a difficult situation and fooling someone, right? So these kind of words, we should not be spoken, and we should be always truthful, right? Being truthful in the beginning, it will a little bit hurt a little bit. It will be difficult a little bit. But being truthful has many, many benefits, right? So that is why we need to understand that lying is not good in any way, right? No matter it is a white lie or a red lie or any kind of lie, lie is harmful for all of us, right? If we can try to be truthful, if we can live our life in a truthful way, it will give you a huge satisfaction about your life. When you think about your life, how truthful you have lived, then it will give you a good sense of like happiness into your life, okay? So if you can create an environment of understanding, love and care and guidance, so then the people around you will not lie to you, okay? So tell to your children, no matter what you do, tell the truth. If you tell the truth, there will be no punishment, there will be no scolding, and only there will be love, care, and guidance. So keep this little advice in your mind and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. We all know how difficult it feels when after doing something or saying something, the same mind that forced us to do that action, the same mind that pushed us to do that action, turns back at us and say, why did you do that? Why did you say that? You shouldn't have done that. We spend a lot of time regretting about our past actions, the things that we have done or said in the past. It turns out 75% of people spend a significant amount of their lifetime regretting either about past or being fear about the future, right? So if you think that you're the only person who is regretting about the past actions, you are not. We all are. We all are in the same boat, right? So the Buddha realized that regretting over the past actions is one of the biggest issues when it comes to the peace of the human mind. So that is why the Buddha gives a straightforward answer for this question, how to stay away from regrets in life. The Buddha says, first, be mindful about your actions. And by doing something, if the result leads to suffering of yourself or suffering to others, stay away from doing such actions. That is the first thing to do, right? But how to put it into action, how to not to collect the things or to do things that brings regret to our life. So the Buddha gave us an amazing advice to practice this, amazing practice. Buddha describes this to his former son, Rahula. Before becoming the Buddha, he was a prince and he had a son. His name was Rahula. Later, he became a monk, right? And he gave this amazing advice to Venerable Rahula. The Buddha asked from Venerable Rahula, Rahula, what do you think? What is the purpose of a mirror? Then Venerable Rahula says, the purpose of a mirror is to see the reflection, to check the reflection, sir. Then the Buddha says, in the same way, Rahula, you have to understand that before doing something or before saying something, you have to thoroughly reflect on that action. You have to ask from yourself that this action that I'm wishing to do, will it bring suffering to my life? Will it bring suffering to others' life? Am I doing this action with an unwholesome mind? If the answer is yes, then the Buddha says, by all means, you have to stay away from such actions. Because the things that we do with an unwholesome mind, the Buddha says that the end result is the suffering. So the Buddha explains this in the first verse in the Dhammapada. The Buddha says, if someone did something with an unwholesome mind, suffering follows that person like a cart wheel follows an ox, right? So what Buddha teaches us is that before doing something or before saying something, just wisely reflect on it, right? Thoroughly reflect on it. What will be the consequence of this action? Is it going to hurt myself? Is it going to hurt others, right? And then the Buddha says, when you reflect on your actions, if you found out that the actions that you are wishing to do will bring happiness to yourself, the actions that you are going to do will bring the happiness to other people. And if you are doing this action with an wholesome mind, by all means, do that, because that brings the peace and happiness to your life. So that is where the practice of mindfulness comes into play, right? Because in mindfulness, we don't do things mindfully. What we do is we become mindful about what we do, right? We understand why we are doing what we are doing, right? Most of the time, the reason why we collect regretful actions to our life is because we don't know why we are doing what we are doing, right? So the first step is to understand what is the purpose of this action? What is the intention behind my actions? When you become mindful about the consequence of such actions, then you can make a good choice to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life, right? So that is the first thing to do. The first thing is to be mindful and to thoroughly reflect on our actions and to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life. That is the first step. And then the Buddha realized that as an average person, you can't reflect on each and every action that you do, right? That mindfulness is not that developed enough for each and every person. So as an average person, we all will make mistakes. We will all do wrong things. Then the Buddha gave an amazing solution for this problem, for this regret. The Buddha says, if you have done something that is regretful, do not hide it. That is what Buddha says. The Buddha says, if you have done something, if you are regretting about a past action, if you are regretting about something that you have done in the past or said in the past, first thing you have to do is you should not hide it. Find a person who can understand you. The Buddha says that reveal it to your spiritual teacher, right? Find a person who can understand you, or reveal it to your spiritual companions, right? Find a community of people who can understand you, who does not judge you, who can give a good guidance to you, and reveal it to them, right? Do not hide it. Do not conceal it. Open it up in front of wise people. Now, there are two amazing things that happens when you reveal yourself or when you confess yourself in front of wise people. What are the two things? The first thing is that it frees up your mind, right? It releases your stress and the tension and that negative energy that is building up in your mind. right? And that will lead to not to repeat this same action again and again. The problem with concealing and hiding a past mistake is that the more we hide it, the more there will be a probability for it to repeat. If you reveal it, then it frees up it releases your heart, right? And also it releases that negative energy that is building up within you. That is the first thing that happens to you. The second thing is that you will get a wonderful guidance, good guidance to overcome that action, right? You will get the help from the community around you, right? So the first thing is to not to do something that is regretful. That is the first thing to do. To do that, we need to build up the mindfulness, right? And to reflect on our actions before doing them. And the second thing is that if there are things that we are regretting about the past, we have to reveal it. You have to talk about it and let it out from your heart. So these are the two things that we have to do when it comes to regret. So the Buddha showed us that understanding the mistake as a mistake and accepting it and disciplining yourself to not to repeat it again will help you to free up your mind and bring peace and happiness to all of our minds. So that is why we all need, and it is very important for all of us to practice the mindfulness, practice the reflection on our own actions, and also to be brave enough to confess the mistakes that we have done in the past. So I hope you got some idea about this mindfulness and confession. So hope to see you in another video. See you in the next week. Namo Buddhaya.